It's pretty obvious that BioWare's latest release, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, failed to sell, and a lot of that is attributed to the fact that the game was overtly pushing identity politics. It's even got to the point where some of their media allies are even saying that the political agenda was pretty blatant within that game, and that turned off a lot of gamers. But they're not saying that they should stop doing it. They're just saying to kind of tone it down a little bit instead of risking alienating the potential customer base, because it's looking like BioWare may actually be taking that advice to heart, because according to some of the rumors for their upcoming release, Mass Effect 5, that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to be toning down a lot of the political elements within the game, only for them to add them back on in patches. Rumor, BioWare may stealth introduce politically charged content into Mass Effect 5 post-launch. And this is obvious so that they can sell a game a lot at their initial launch. People can play it, enjoy it, or whatever. And then they can add their stuff in later on and then get that ESG check as a result of it. Or the people at the company are happy that they can still push their agenda within their games, but actually make money, because just having it at the forefront at the time of the launch of the game hasn't been working out for not only BioWare, but many other game studios. A supposed insider claiming to be a contractor working on BioWare's upcoming Mass Effect 5 revealed that EA and BioWare might be shifting strategies in the wake of Dragon Age: The Veilguard's epic failure. And there's a screen grab of a tweet that went out that was sharing this information, and it's coming from a Reddit thread. So this is an unnamed insider, and it's coming from a Reddit thread. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt here. But still, I want to talk about it because I do think there is some merit to this, especially when you consider that this is coming from a contractor. So it's someone who's not as ideologically captured at the company, someone who can almost be perceived as an outsider getting inside information. And this is what he's sharing. Like I said, you can take it with a pinch of salt, but this is a transcript of what was actually said from this person. Devs were asked to delay features are in content that may be deemed woke or political and defer them to future patches. The anonymous user said, as QAs, we were tasked to report if we audit or detect anything that might resemble them so they can be fixed. The company wants to launch the game as clean as possible and introduce woke stuff silently through patches. I fear this might be industry-wide. They wouldn't be issuing this so early otherwise, so tread carefully. Now, if there are elements like this that they can just take out and then add back in later, then it's probably not going to be as apparent as what we saw with Dragon Age: The Veilguard. So it does look like they're toning down a lot of that stuff, but still there is many things that they could add back in later on that a lot of people won't actually enjoy. But the fact of the matter that they're toning it down to the point where it is something that you can just take out and put back in does show that BioWare has, at least in part, learned their lesson from Dragon Age: The Veilguard's failure. It's entirely possible that BioWare and EA are wary of ideological or political content after the horrible failure of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. A recent report from YouTube creator SmashJT, citing sources within BioWare, stated that the big budget title has yet to move 1.5 million copies worldwide. Dragon Age represents a major financial and critical embarrassment for BioWare, and many believe the upcoming Mass Effect 5 could be the studio's last chance. Yeah, we don't know the current financial situation with BioWare. One thing is for sure, though, they were saved in the past by EA buying them up. But I mean, if they have a string of failures like Dragon Age: The Veilguard or Mass Effect 5, well, then that could spell doom for the company. I don't know for sure, but still, I think it is pretty obvious so that they need this game to succeed. So they're going to pull out all the stops. And if that means delaying, pushing their political agenda until after the launch of the game, I could see that being a course of action that they would consider taking. However, the current state of BioWare, coupled with the recent release of Mass Effect board game, have left many fearing for the future of the signature franchise. And I did make a video talking about the board game at the time because they're introducing pronouns and other elements to it. And people working on the board game are pretty, I would say, zealous, putting it kindly, in trying to push that political agenda. So I guess it stands to reason that there's people working at BioWare, especially since BioWare just launched Dragon Age: The Veilguard, that are equally as zealous about trying to push their political agendas like this. It's just a matter of whether the executives at the higher end of the studio are willing to launch the game like that, or if they're actually just going to do what they're saying in this article, which is to delay it until after the launch so that they can sell as many copies at launch as possible. and then push their agenda later on. Let me see, scrolling down the article, the Reddit thread in question was removed with mods citing misleading information. The mods wouldn't actually have insider information, so they're just kind of saying that without any proof. However, the author still managed to respond to several questions beforehand. In these responses, the supposed insider confirmed that Pride Flag cosmetic patches were planned with alternative names like Bubblegum Patch for a design featuring blue, pink, and white. Additionally, the leaker noted that pronoun selection was included in the current build. Pronoun selection, kind of like the board game that they had. To me, this is kind of specific right here to say that they're going to have a patch called Bubblegum Patch, so people don't necessarily look too far into it, and it's going to add blue, pink, or white features to it, basically trans flags and things like that. And this is kind of what I was getting at earlier when I was saying they can't have stuff that's so overt that they can just take it out and put it back in, but adding flags and other things like that, I can see that being the case for this. So they're having specifics like this from this supposed insider, I think lends a little bit more credibility to it. But again, they could just be making this up too. So you have to take it with a pinch of salt. Former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kearns, aka Grumps, seemed hopeful at this rumor. I can tell you this, he said, speaking on the rumor that BioWare said political content was being removed for now and added in later. When management says delete this now, they don't really plan to add it in later. They're saying that to keep their activist employees from rioting. And that's something that's long been speculated going on at many of these studios, that the executives at these companies understand that their job is to try to make money, and they're sweating because they can't do that with the current stuff that they're producing, but they're not changing course because they're essentially afraid of their own employees, or they've hired so many people who are ideologically captured into this worldview that if they decided to shift course, then a lot of those people would probably quit, or they would sabotage the game, because some of these people have been shown that they're so fervent in their belief into identity politics that they would sabotage the game from the inside if they can't get their way. So maybe this is a way that they're trying to almost find a balance where it's like, okay, we have to push this agenda, but we also still have to make money. So let's just say we're going to get rid of it right now, but add it in later on. And then when later on comes around, we're not going to be doing that. And maybe that'll be some way that they can salvage it, or maybe they do plan on adding it in later on because the executives at these companies are ideologically captured themselves, but they're still trying to find that balance in order to push their agenda while still trying to make money, because they're realistic and to the sense that they understand that they can't be doing this all the time, because eventually they're going to go under as a company if people just aren't buying their stuff. So maybe this is a way that they can hopefully try to make some money, but still add their agenda to it so they can collect that ESG check. However, this would seem to confirm a scoop that YouTube commentator Endymion shared back in September, that noted studios were going to start injecting DEI content in secret. So this is kind of something that Endymion said before, that he gets insider information that this is going to happen. Then we get this Reddit post from someone who says that they're an insider saying that this is going on. Maybe this supposed insider who posted on Reddit saw what Endymion said, and they're kind of latching onto that and making up their own information, claiming to be an insider. Or maybe this is something separate entirely. They didn't see his video, so it kind of confirms what he previously reported. He said this back then, according to my sources, and this was one of the most damning allegations, so please listen carefully here. Endymion said, is that the game industry across plenty of studios will start to market their games as being devoid of identity politics and pandering almost completely. However, the actual content within these games in the future will not be altered or lessened in terms of identity political content, despite the tonal change in marketing. This is a little different, saying that they're just going to not make it the forefront of the game's identity. Some games, I think, will do that, not necessarily make it so overt before the launch of the game, and then after the game's launched, then people will start pointing out that stuff. Look for review embargoes to be held until pretty much the launch of the game because they don't want word getting out what's in the game until it's launched. Essentially, Endymion sources believe that the industry is about to start playing 4D chess with gamers, attempting to trick them into purchasing content that features identity politics. Simply put, many studios and publishers are still all in on DEI and wokeness in the future, like they are not changing that, and they still want you to consume this content whether you want to or not. But they will now sell the games by marketing them to you to trick you into think that they're not woke, basically, and then you will buy it, and then sometimes into these future experiences, all the wokeness, I guess, will reveal itself. The reason why I don't think this would ultimately work in the long run is because gamers are already starting to get wise to the idea about not necessarily buying games on launch, wait for word of mouth, because a lot of the times there are issues with games, even if it's not identity politics, but just a lot of bugs and other problems with it. People will just rather wait till all that stuff gets ironed out after launch before they choose to buy it. So I think more people are going to start waiting for word of mouth to see, like, okay, if studios are going to start doing this approach, to wait to see if there is that stuff injected into it. But like I said, this is a little different because this is saying to hide it in the marketing, but it's going to be present at launch. What this insider is saying is basically it's not going to be present at launch. They're going to wait for some good word of mouth, and then they'll add that stuff into it, because also these studios are spending so much money producing these games that they need some good word of mouth. They can't expect to make their budget back on launch alone. They need to actually have a couple good months of sales in order to basically make their money's worth on it. So I think it does make sense that if they were going to do something while still trying to inject identity politics, they would make it more subtle, and then they would inject them in later on at patches. But maybe Grums is correct in that they're not necessarily going to add it in later. The executives at the studio are not on board with this sort of thing, and they're hoping that they can just do what a parent says, like if a child is saying, like, hey, can we get ice cream or whatever? And they're like, oh, well, later on if you're good, and they never follow through with it. This could be the approach that's going on, but I do think there are some studios out there that are ideologically captured at the highest levels of it. I've talked about Ubisoft, for instance, where the executives at the company have even said that they understand that identity politics has been detrimental to them, but they still believe in it, so they're still going to continue pushing that in their games. Other studios, though, are doing it because they think it was profitable for them if they push these agendas, because they think it's a market that isn't being captured. So if they can capture it, then they can make more money. But one thing, though, I think if studios start actually going by this approach and realize, like, wait, we don't need these ideologues buying our games, because just regular gamers buying our games that are void of this stuff are selling well enough. I think more studios, even if they don't initially intend to go down this route, will start trying to remove a lot of those elements from their games, because they realize, well, it's not helping us to add it in there. It makes us look bad if we add it in later. Let's just get rid of it entirely. And I think this is promising, because I've said the game industry, I think the pendulum is starting to swing back in the other direction, where we've basically reached peak wokeness, so to speak, where studios have experimented with it. They realize it doesn't work. The ones that are going to change course and go back to producing games that gamers want are going to succeed. The ones that don't are going to ultimately fail and be bought up by the ones that are succeeding. So I think this is a good sign all around. And it is the fact that they're even entertaining the idea about trying to hide it, if that is what they're doing, shows that they understand that it is a bad ideology to try to insert within their games. But let me know what you think about these rumors in the comment section below. Do you think there's some plausibility to what they're doing here? Or do you think this is more just rumors and there's really no merit to them whatsoever? And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.